Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans, and on the eve of the budget speech by Tito Mbweni. Oh, that's going to be a cracker, and we're covering it live on this channel. Just remember that. 10 p.m. Wednesday night. Now, we're talking about the canary in the cage, as I call it. We've referred to South African Airways, that plucked and tarred state-owned enterprise, which is in complete disarray, and no one flies South African Airways now. It's just, its credibility is completely sunk into the garbage bin. Didn't take the ANC long, did it? Especially with people like Mbweni chairing the organization. What a complete disgrace these ANC cadres are. Anyway, we now have an Auditor General's report on the state of South African Airways. And I don't think anything will surprise you in the report, but let's just put it on the record, because South African Airways is the canary in the cage, and every other state-owned enterprise, I can put money on it, has exactly the same kind of crime and corruption going on within it. South Africa's Auditor General's office has testified to the chaotic conditioning of South African Airways organization during a judicial commission examining allegations of corruption and fraud in state companies. The office participated for the first time in the audit of South African Airways' full-year financial statements, covering 2016 to 2017. South African Airways was experiencing liquidity problems and could not provide the office with the financial statements until October 2017, 5 months behind schedule. Auditor General Business Executive Palani Sokombela described as quite dire some aspects of South African Airways organization and detailed multiple concerns picked up during its audit of the company's financial state. Sokombela told the inquiry on the 21st of February that the airline was experiencing a lot of instability at the time, with more than 40% of its executive committee positions filled in an acting capacity. There was no permanent chief executive or head of finances, commercial activity and strategy, and South African Airways did not have sufficient aviation specialists at board level. You know why? Yeah. You got it. Little acronym, BEE, Black Economic Empowerment. Even though there are dozens of skilled and capable white people who could have filled those positions amongst the black community, they were missing in action. So they just left a big hole in it. It's just crazy. Nor did the carrier have enough individuals with appropriate competencies regarding preparation of financial statements, understanding of regulations for supply chain management, or compliance with the South African Treasury's framework on performance reporting. Same thing, BEE. This is the fruits of a racist employment policy that is coming home to bite the ANC government, and in particular Ramaphosa's big ass, very much on the butt. That had a negative impact, said Sokombela. We ended up having a lot of findings in those areas, adding that compliance with legislation was a serious challenge at South African Airways. And all the other state-owned enterprises, believe me, will be in the same position. But no one will go to court. No one will be charged. No one will be found corrupt, because the judicial system is completely corrupted itself. And we'll be covering that shortly when we get certain people online here on live streams talking about what's actually going on. Just crazy. The airline's annual report, he pointed out, admitted to a regular expenditure of 125 million rand, a sharp rise on the previous year's figure. 125 million rand of irregular expenditure at South African Airways in 1 year. But Sokombela says the Auditor General's office could not find evidence of consequence management, namely any sanction against transgressors, because they were all in the loop. He also pointed to a lack of capacity in the legal divisions tasked with overseeing South African Airways contract management. While successful suppliers were notified by letter when awarded a tender, he said, this was not always accompanied by a formal contract. Sokombela said that, in our view, was a big risk for South African Airways, because if you don't have a signed contract with your supplier, how are you going to control them? He told the inquiry that this situation, with little control over quality or even existence of supply, had probably been going on for quite some time, and I can give you a simple reason as to why that was the situation. Because the organizations that South African Airways were dealing with were BEE compliant. They were shell companies established by mates, friends, family of the ANC, connections, etc., etc. None of this business went to the John and Ndlovos in Soweto and Alexandra. It went to those who were in the loop, who were in the know, and they just scored big time financially out of this. That's why there were no contracts. South African Airways had a very big contract register, he said, but the majority of them, the Auditor General office, could not find the signed contracts, meaning the credibility of the register was questionable. I rest my case on what I've just said a moment ago. He added, when we were there and we looked at the state of affairs, it was quite dire. Sokombela described South African Airways record keeping as a significant concern, telling the inquiry that obtaining information would sometimes take 3 months. He said this has resulted in significant limitations of scope on our side due to the issue, especially in the area of supply chain management and also assets of South African Airways. Now, supply chain management is basically where a BEE shelf company supplies something, and there's this classic case involving bottled water to South African Airways. If South African Airways had dealt directly with the wholesaler, it would have cost about R2.50 per bottle. But no, they dealt through one of their mates who had a BEE shelf company who got the contract to supply bottled water. He supplied exactly the same bottled water as the one that they could have got direct for R2.50 per bottle. But guess what they paid? Nearly 20 Rand a bottle. Yeah. Nearly 10 times the price that they could have got each bottle of water that was used on South African Airways flights if they'd gone direct to the wholesaler. This is what's called black privilege by the Well Connected. Those with the shelf companies, which are BEE compliant, and this is why the ANC have got their noses so deep in the trough. It's unbelievable. South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, who established the judicial inquiry into state capture in 2018, authorized investigators earlier this month to probe allegations of corruption and unlawful conduct at the carrier. Now you understand why there's no record keeping. Who wants to put themselves in the firing line? It's a complete and utter disgrace. All right, guys, please remember to subscribe to be kept informed. Ring the bell for the updates. Please like this video. Please share this video. And above all, please stay safe.